Well, hi, this is Kathy, and welcome to Creating the Life That You Want in 2015. I'm very pleased to have a couple of our members with us today that we're going to be interviewing, and that is Carrie and Lynn. So what I thought I would do is to just ask if each of you could speak a little bit about, tell us about who you are, where you're from, what kind of lifestyle you live, just so people can get to know a little bit about that. So Carrie, you want to go first?
Sure, I'm happy to go first. So my name is Carrie Ure. I live in Portland, Oregon, and let's see, I've been here for about 24 years. I'm a transplanted Californian, and I've been simplifying since I made my first trip to India in 2008, and I have moved 4 times in the last since then, and just really passionate about living a less encumbered lifestyle. I'm a mom and I'm married, and my child is about ready to go off to college, so another chance to further declutter, I'd say.
Great. How about you, Lynn?
Okay, I'm Lynn, and I live in Arlington, Texas, which is part of Dallas-Fort Worth. I'm currently in San Antonio. I've just now retired, rather suddenly, and I'm moving down to San Antonio, where I guess that's home. I'm an Army brat, so home as much as anything could be. I started decluttering. I actually downsized when my stepdaughters were grown and finally settled. And I realized they were nearby there in Denver. And so I decided to move out of the house and rent it and see how I liked the smaller space. And I loved it. I went from 2,400 square feet with a pool to 800 square foot apartment and everything taken care of. And that was back in 2006, so about the same time frame as Carrie. And since then, I've just been progressively simplifying my life in a lot of different areas, and am to the point now where I've been anticipating this move and retiring, so I really have very little to move. I'm kind of excited about it and experimenting really with being minimalist and see how that feels. So ultimately, I think I want to find a loft space or something and travel a lot. So we'll see, but it's really been an interesting journey and kind of tied to life stages for me. So.
Yeah. I think at each stage there's a slight different focus, but almost in any of them we can simplify, perhaps. So I'll go back to Carrie, and my question for you is, what has been your approach to simplifying your life? And by that, it doesn't have to be formal in any way.
Oh, let's see. My approach first started with Feng Shui. I met a woman, Gwyn Warner, here in Portland, who I consulted with a couple of times, and her mode was, it wasn't so much really get rid of clutter as it was to make a more free-flowing space. So I started with that, and then I realized as my spaces became more pleasant to be in that I wanted them to also be simplified. My approach has been pretty intuitive, actually. Just it's what I like, and I've always been attracted to a more Zen kind of style where things are easy to get to, easy to store. I've always been kind of a neat person. So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And Lynn, how about you? What kind of kick-started you on this journey, and how have you approached simplifying and minimalism?
I think I started by just basically donating things I no longer needed. The kids were, not home. Things that I had in the house when I had a family at home, and downsized to an apartment, and took a lot with me. And I started with my clothes. And the first pass through, I had the typical clothes, I'd like to get into and all different sizes and all that kind of stuff. And I decided to experiment with just getting rid of everything that didn't fit right now that I didn't love. And some of the stuff I boxed up, and eventually, but I eliminated about 75% of my clothes. And that was such a wonderfully freeing thing to do. And it just kind of, went from there. And it was almost like peeling an onion, just different levels. I've gotten to the point in my apartment where I have very little need for storage. It's just, I've just gotten rid of a lot of things I just don't use. So it's been very gradual. I probably, tackle it every quarter a little bit. So
okay.
I did a big approach with my kitchen in December, and just a lot of things I just don't do anymore. So, and I'm like Carrie, I like a very zen space. So.
Can you tell us what that approach to your kitchen was in December, just to kind of paint a picture for folks?
I took everything out. Everyone's probably familiar with the Minimalist, and the two Minimalists, and they have something called a packing party where they pack everything up and then just take out things that they need, and after a month, if they haven't used it, they donate it. So I sort of did that with the kitchen. I started with things that I use a lot, and I knew I needed them, but I packed up extra dishes, extra glasses, extra all those mugs that kind of multiply on their own. And my kitchen was pretty small anyway because I was in an apartment, but a lot of appliance type things I really don't use. I found out I don't care about the food processor that much. I really enjoy just chopping with a knife. And I've really simplified my cooking since it's just me, and just basically went through everything. And I love to cook, but there are a lot of things I'm not baking that much anymore. Don't really care to. So things have just changed because of the stage I'm in. My friends and I rather go out to eat. So anyhow.
Got it. And Carrie, for you, have there been any big wins or changes that you've gone through with simplifying?
Do you mean as a result of the simplifying?
Yeah, either the process or the result. I'm open to either.
Well, it's hard for me to really say because what came along, the simplifying really came along with a lifestyle change. So I met my husband in 2008, and we moved in together in 2009, and so we combined two households. So we had two houses. He had a 4-story house, and I had a three-level condominium.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 7 stories altogether.
Yeah, exactly. And so between us, we had, 2 car garages, and it was just, it was really a lot. So it was just a matter of getting us to be able to live in one household. And then I started to see that there was a lot of things that we really didn't need. Plus, we had 3 children between us, and there were so many stages that children go through, and they were growing up, and we didn't need a lot of stuff. So, but as I got rid of more and more stuff, I realized how much lighter I felt, how much more purposeful, how much more focused, how much happier. I realized when we finally left his big house. So when I sold my condo and moved into his big house, and then we finally sold the big house a few years later, and how much more time we have. And right now, currently, we live in an apartment, so we have no yard work. We have no maintenance at all of our space. I hired a house cleaner to come once a week, and so I literally have no household chores at all. So it's allowed us both to focus on career and family and our relationship, really.
That's great.
And I spend a lot of time doing my spiritual practice and pursuits, so it's given me the time to do that.
That's awesome. Yeah, I think occasionally people get so caught up in the letting go and how many numbers do I have that they forget most of the reason why we're doing all this is to free up money and time so that we can do more of what we want to do instead of taking care of our things, paying for more things. So that's great. Good to hear. Lynn, I'll transition to you and ask you the next question. what areas have been easiest for you to declutter?
Clothes, definitely. I'm not that crazy about clothes, and I like things really simple in that area. So that's been very easy for me. A lot of it's fairly easy for me to get rid of furniture now. I don't like a lot of furniture. I just really want space. It's hard for me to get rid of decor, pictures, and you know, what paintings and things like that. I discovered something really interesting about emotional attachments. I didn't realize how many things in my house I had really negative feelings about. They were, you know, really nice things or even valuable, but they didn't make me feel very good. You know, either because of the relationship or some connection with it. And I went through quite a dramatic change when I got rid of that kind of stuff, and just, you know, had things around me that I wasn't emotionally connected to.
Yeah, sometimes we can have.
Way. So that was positive.
Sorry, your sound was sort of cutting in and out a little bit.
Yeah, you did too, just a minute ago. So okay. Anyway, and the other thing that I realized because of this, and a lot of it came, books are very hard for me to get rid of, but I discovered something I call aspirational clutter, where I have things like recipes I want to try, books I need to read, and a lot of people do, but I didn't realize what a burden that was. And I made lists of like the books that I hadn't read that I should someday, and donated them to the library, and it was very freeing, you know, to get rid of some of that. And you know, the net aggregate, I got a lot of time back to do things that I wanted to do now. And so those were two rather big things for me, getting rid of emotional things and as well as aspirational clutter.
Yeah, that
stuff I'm really not interested in doing anymore. So.
Yeah, those sound like two very big things.
Yeah, they were big revelations.
With the books you mentioned, writing them down, what caused you to do that? Like,
well, there are things that I was interested in. I don't know exactly when, and you know, it's a lot of it's nonfiction that I might read someday, and rather than try to discover them, I thought it might be glad most of them, and it was just easier to let them go and let the library keep them. You know, and know that those were things that really were interesting to me, but I don't know when. So now that I'm retired, at the time I was still working full time, and it just seemed like a long way off. And now that I'm actually retired, it's maybe it's here. So we'll see. Yeah.
So it sounds like the list sort of helped you feel like you didn't lose them. You still at least knew which ones they were. So I think that's a great idea. I like that. Just wanted
it's been very helpful to me to let go of the stuff, you know, and be able to. And just have a list of it. I did the same thing with some emotional things or knick-knacky things. I took pictures, and then I can let the item go. You know, I didn't need to have the item, but I'd like the memory, and a photo is fine. So.
Right. I know at one point you mentioned that you got rid of some ski pants, which maybe would be.
Oh, you had to bring that up.
Aspirational.
My college.
It just helps others to hear the examples. I'm not trying to call you out there, girl.
No, that's fine. It is kind of funny. I had my college, I'm 66, and I had my college ski pants until 6 months ago.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm very glad they're gone. So, yeah, it is funny, the things that we keep. But.
And Carrie, what things have been easiest for you?
It's easiest for me to get rid of gifts that I'm given.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a hard one for a lot of folks.
I know, and I'm pretty ruthless. I really appreciate the sentiment. I'm very gracious when I receive a gift, and I very easily just put it right into I have a place where things that are leaving my house go in this one closet, and I have no compunction about wrapping it back up and just putting it right in the closet right away. If it's not to my taste. And I found that really helped me with my relationships a lot.
Now, do you re-gift it or you donate it?
Sometimes I'll re-gift it. Sometimes I'll donate it. just depends.
Mhm.
I do regift, especially those things that I've never used that I've received, and what lot of times I'll use them as a hostess gift. I went to a party, I think it was around Christmas time, and they wanted us to bring something for. They were having like I don't know, a giveaway of some kind, and I brought this dish that I had received for Christmas, and I knew I would never use it. And it was a good quality, nice item, and I brought it, and the hostess was so thrilled with it. She's like,
Oh,
"I'm
nice.
keeping this," you know. So I felt really great about that. But I
Mhm.
have no trouble giving away gifts. I also easily let go of furniture. I'm the kind where if I've moved a lot, and if the furniture doesn't fit my current space, I just get rid of it and get
Mm.
something new.
Mhm.
Yeah, I do
Let's
too.
see. Uh, I get rid of clothes pretty easily.
Mhm.
Um, I keep the clothes I really like to wear. I keep them for a really long time, and I take care of them, and I
Mhm.
wear them. I get a lot of use out of them, and so when they're worn, I have no trouble getting rid of them.
Mhm.
I also tend to. I don't have a very good memory, so I'm a writer, so I tend to write things down, keep a journal, and keep lists, and keep electronic files. I also take photos of things I get rid of
Mhm.
that have at one point been cherished items. But I'm pretty also pretty. It's pretty easy for me to get rid of mementos from um, you know maybe relationships that are not really the best for me, or times that really weren't that great.
Mhm.
I don't hold on to those things. I like to stay in the present.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I myself had a rooster that when I walked the Camino, that was very special because there was roosters everywhere. And so my friend that I walked with, who I was then in a relationship with, sent me this rooster that my granddaughter loved. But when I would look at it, it would remind me of that relationship that didn't work.
Mm-hmm.
And I also realized that when my granddaughter was really little, that was the main thing that she could focus on when she came here. But as she got older, the cat, the fan, the stairs, all these things became new things. So I actually did go ahead last month and get rid of the rooster, and it just
Nice.
it's a small thing, and
Mm-hmm.
here again you can tell that I had to think about what about my granddaughter, and what if the person who gave it to me finds out? And I just thought, it's in my home. I deserve to have a place that really supports me. So out it went.
Yay. That's
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. It just feels cleaner and clearer in here. So next thing, Lynn, I'm going to ask you is what is the hardest thing for you to declutter? We talked about easiest, now go with hardest.
Hardest for me is books.
Okay.
And I've come a long way. I had a lot of, but it was back before the internet, and I had a lot of books, a lot of reference books. And when I moved from my house, I had 7 bookcases, and I pared down to about 4 when I moved to my apartment. And now I'm down to 180 books, and that's just major for me. So,
Awesome.
but books have definitely been the hardest. So,
Mm-hmm.
very
Okay.
gradual.
And Carrie, what about for you?
It's also hard for me to get rid of books. Those are one of my hardest things to get rid of. I form emotional attachments to books.
I understand.
Yeah.
Books and mementos and anything written down or notes that I've taken, I have a hard time. I like in Marie
Yeah.
Kondo's book how she talks about people that are addicted to workshops. I'm one of those people that has every binder from every workshop I've ever taken, the
Mm-hmm.
notes from everything, and um, I do occasionally look back at them, but or I'm looking for something. And it's the same thing with computer files. I really have a hard time getting rid of computer files
Okay.
and like digital photographs. I have a hard time
Mm-hmm.
getting
Okay. Got it.
rid of. Mm-hmm.
Next question, I'll go to Lynn, is have you ever regretted something you got rid of?
Hmm. I have to think about that a second. Not really. I had a little bit of a struggle sometimes. One thing that was hard for me was a teddy bear that my dad had when he was 2.
Mm.
And being in the Army, we always had a problem moving with a weight allowance. And I didn't know it until I guess I was 62. Mom gave me Dad's teddy bear. And I didn't even know it existed. That was the first I'd ever seen of it. He didn't care about it. And but it was one of those things, how do you get rid of it? You know, you can't throw something like that in the trash. And I didn't know what to do with it. I wasn't attached to it, but it was my dad's teddy bear. And he was cute. He was a little vintage bear. Anyway, and I was in a decluttering group, and I put a picture up, and I said, what would you all do with this bear? And one of the gals from Australia just fell in love with it. And so Bear is in Australia. That was really fun. But and I've thought a little bit about it, but I'm kind of, you know, I'm going to go visit Bear in Australia. So that's how I resolved that one. A few things that I had some kind of a connection with that was positive. I haven't really regretted it, but I did let him go. So.
Okay, you still.
It was a little bit harder, yeah.
Right.
Like Dad's teddy bear, and you know, he'd been in a drawer in a box, and so now he's just cherished. So.
Oh, that's good. Somebody's enjoying him.
That's kind of neat.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a happy little story. My dad, it just cracks my dad up. He's 93, and he just can't get over the fact that his teddy bear is in Australia. So. That's been cute for our family. Yeah.
Yeah, nice probably for everybody involved.
Yeah, it's a funny thing to happen.
Mm-hmm. Carrie, what about you? Have you had anything that you let go of that you had regrets about?
I don't have regrets about anything I've let go of. I have regrets about things I've lost, or you know, that have gotten lost along the way, but not anything I've actually let go of. No. Mm-hmm. For me, it's pretty much out of sight, out of mind.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it's a more conscious thing versus somebody taking it from you. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, or like you said, maybe misplacing it perhaps too.
Yeah.
So how have you guys handled photos and maybe any kind of digital decluttering? What have you done thus far? And I'll go to Lynn first.
Okay. Photos are real important to me, and I spent 3 months. I took all of the photos from my childhood and everything I could get my hands on, my stepdaughters and everything, and I digitized everything and got it organized on my iMac. And I just spent 30 minutes a day, and it was really kind of a fun project, but I knew it was going to take forever. We had some slides. In fact, I have some slides that I didn't know existed that I still need to do, but I just love that, and I like looking at photos, you know, digital some way, and they're easy to share with other people. True. My big problem was what to do with the print.
So what did you do? Yeah.
Well, in the case of my childhood, I sent them all to my brother. And I said, don't tell me what you do with them.
Okay.
Basically, he lets go of things easier than I do, and I sent him a digital copy too, so he didn't have to rescan everything. But I passed the buck on that one, and I gave a lot of the kids pictures. I couldn't destroy the photos. That was hard for me. Mm-hmm. So, but I did, you know, scan everything in. I just love having them that way. Mm-hmm. So.
Okay. How about you, Carrie?
Photos are hard for me. I think that's the last thing I haven't really touched. In fact, it's a little bit of a problem. My husband has a huge collection of photos, as do I, and we have them all stashed in his mother's garage, which that's not sustainable in the long run. So I have a client who is a photo digitizer, and I have her address sitting right here on my computer. I'm supposed to start sending her boxes of things, but I haven't done it yet. So I'm definitely procrastinating this job. I think it's the hardest one.
Yeah.
And I like Lynn's approach. I think that's one I would take, having one box at a time, maybe sitting here at my desk where I can just kind of go through half hour a day or something. But it seems like such an enormous task. I'm not sure when I'm going to be facing it.
Yeah. And those big tasks, sometimes they take someone else helping us in
Yeah.
some way can make them a little easier. I myself ended up doing kind of a halfway plan. I ended up where my photos from 2001 till now are all digital.
Mm-hmm.
But the photos before that, I used to have tons of photo albums. I took the photos out of the albums because they take up less room.
Yep.
And then I had them in probably like 3 shoe boxes that gradually became 2, and that now is 1.
Mm-hmm.
And so I do enjoy holding some of those old photos, especially the old black and whites. The older they are, the more I enjoy them. Yeah. But the other thing I realized is say we went on a camping trip, I maybe had 10 or 12 photos.
Yeah.
So I went through and picked out like my favorite 2 or 3. And what I did was pass them on to anybody who might want them, but I felt comfortable throwing them away if they truly, like, hey, if you look bad in a photo, why would you want to ever save that and stuff? So I definitely got rid of those. That helps them out quite a bit too. So I have a great question for you, and I'm going to ask Carrie this one first just to mix it up a little. And that is, have you decluttered relationships? And if so, how did that process go?
Yes, I have definitely. Well, do you mean actual people? Yes, I have. Yeah, I have decluttered relationships from time to time. I'm not proud of the fact that I've actually cut people out of my life at times, and I don't do that anymore. But when I was younger, I would just kind of do that and that doesn't really work. That's not a long-term sustainable kind of a thing to do. So, but I'm very careful about who I spend time with. Very, very careful. So I will definitely not encourage somebody that I know is not somebody I want to be with. Somebody who's negative, or, it's all about how my energy is after I'm with them. If I feel, because I'm an extrovert, I usually get energy from being around people, except some people. And those people that I don't feel good around, I just stop hanging out with them. And I would never just tell them that, or I wouldn't break up with them or anything like that. I would just just
spend less time with them.
Just spend less time, or no time if I could get away with it.
Yeah.
And I find Facebook is really helpful for that. I really like Facebook. There are a lot of people that I like that I don't want to spend time with, but there's something about them that I like, and I can get that fixed through Facebook. Some of them are family members. We just have too much, clutter in the past, or maybe their habits or their lifestyle isn't really to my liking, but I want to keep in touch. So I use Facebook a lot for that, just to touch people without having to be too involved in their lives.
Great. How about you, Lynn?
Yeah, I think more than decluttering relationship, I'm talking about people that I've been in a relationship with for a while rather than people I'm meeting. But I haven't really decluttered them so much as just changed the relationship.
Okay.
My ex-husband and I are very good friends. We were married 33 years ago, and we're married for 15 years, and it wasn't going well, but I didn't want to break the relationship off because of his children. And we just, worked at, and we're very, very good friends now. And that's my preference, especially if it's been someone, women that I've been really good friends with. Because of life circumstances or something, the relationship may change, but I like to change it rather than break it off. So I guess that's been more my approach. So
right.
I'm always disappointed that a lot of my women friends are retiring and moving to be near their children, and it changes the relationship, and that always is a little bit hard for me.
Right. One thing that I would say is somehow I was hanging on to...
even with all the technology stuff.
Okay. Did you finish? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Okay. One of the things I noticed is I was hanging on to old address lists.
Oh, yeah.
Or even my electronic address book. had like people from Colorado. Well, I lived in Colorado from 1981 to 84. So if I haven't been in touch with them in this length of time, it's very unlikely that I'm going to. Or that I had people who had passed on still that I was hanging on to their addresses. So in that sense, it felt very freeing to just acknowledge that those relationships were not current, and to merely clean up my address book. I did at one time go through Facebook and feel like there were so many friends. I like had too many. So I went through and did a purging of that, but in some ways that's kind of backfired. It doesn't notify people when you unfriend them, but they may notice over time, then they want to friend you again.
Yeah.
So I don't believe that I would do that again, but I do some, and Facebook has also changed where they're kind of editing who we see, only people that we're interacting with more. So in some ways it's kind of taken care of that. But I had friends on there from high school that were all about pro-gun rights and things that were different than my beliefs, and occasionally I'd gotten into some arguments, which I'm not that kind of person normally to argue. So in some way cutting those ties felt like a positive direction to move into. So next question, we'll start with Carrie, is do you think you're done decluttering?
No, I'm definitely not done.
Mm-hmm.
No. There's a lot more I could do. Ironically, I wasn't really conscious of this until I read Marie Kondo's book. I've left my office for last, and my career is the most shaky part of my life. And I know that I need a deep cleanse of my office and all of my papers and my computer, and that I'm not going to get any traction until I do that. And so it's probably one of the first projects I'm going to undertake as soon as I get through the summer with my son and all of his graduation stuff and get him off to college. So but then I'll have a room to put things, pack things up and move, and I'll have some room to maneuver, and so and then I'm always circling back and finding more things to reduce.
Yeah. So. Yeah. How about you, Lynn?
Yeah, I think for me, just because I've just retired and I'm moving to a new city, I'm temporarily going to live with mom and dad for a while my mom gets better. And I'm just really kind of excited about almost this being a fresh start in a new place, and that's why I'm not moving much of my furniture. I want to do something really different. I want to spend my time much more creatively that I haven't been able to with my job. So I'm really in a big state of flux, and I'm really embracing minimalism. Just I want to see what that really feels like to have. I'm going to put things in storage and just experiment for a little while and see. So
cool.
I haven't felt like I had this many options in probably my whole life, so it's terrific.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it sure is nice that you've done so much decluttering just to make that move go easier. Yeah.
Yeah, because the move came up suddenly, so.
Yeah. And we all intend to declutter before we move, but sometimes that just doesn't happen.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So next I'm going to ask, who are some of your favorite mentors on this simplifying journey? Carrie, I'll ask you first.
Oh, I read that famous book by Vicky, somebody Dominguez, I think, and Vicky, it's here somewhere. If I had a less cluttered office, I could probably find it. There was this really kind of seminal book on simplifying your life, and I can let you know what it is later so that you can put that out there. But that was really, I read that back in the 80s, and it really turned my head around about, so that they were definitely, and then my other mentors and heroes, when I went to India, I was astounded at the small spaces that people lived in and how little they had and how free and happy they seemed to be. And so that was really my initial inspiration. And at the time, I was living by myself in a 2-bedroom house, 1,800 square feet, including a basement and a large 2-car garage, and I had a big yard. And I came home and I just said, I got to get out of here. This is no way to live. So, and then of course, I think my 2 biggest mentors that are, well, the one in my life is definitely Gwen Warner, because she's, as a feng shui consultant, she's really become a close friend and confidant, and she's always encouraging me to really make my spaces a lot more livable. And she's now gotten much more into the decluttering thing herself. Right. And then I think my new favorite hero is definitely Marie.
Yeah.
Her book really, really, really amazed me and just really blew me away. So.
Yeah. Cool. And Lynn, how about you?
Yeah, I think a big influence on me, when I was in junior high, we lived on Okinawa, and I was struck at that time by how very simple their lives were compared to ours. And that made a huge impression on me. And I think, that kind of went the wayside for a while until, I guess it was 1988, I joined the Zen Center and made 2 friends there that were definitely mentors to me on a simple living path. I became vegan because of them, and it simplified a lot of things. I didn't actually do much about it until the kids were grown, but it was just always in the back of my mind. And I think recently there were a couple books. I read The Happy Minimalist by Peter Lawrence, which is a small little book, and he lives with almost nothing. It's just fascinating to me. And then Leo Babauta of Zen Habits is made a tremendous difference to me. So, and then I read a lot of the minimalists, but I guess Leo is probably the primary one that influenced me. So, yeah.
Great. Well, I just want to make sure I verbally tell our audience, I've typed in that you can ask any questions you want me to ask Lynn or Carrie or both. And so we'll just take a moment and see whether there are any more questions. And I have to kind of toggle between these screens. There is like a minute or 2 delay, so we'll wait for that. One thing I want to say is that a lot of what we've talked about has kind of been more focusing on decluttering. But as we go through the second half of the month, I want to spend some time talking more about simplifying, because it's easy in today's world to think that it's all decluttering, but I even titled it Simplifying and Decluttering, because I really want to aim on the simple part. So is there anything that either of you want to say about simplifying in other aspects of your life that has made a difference?
Oh, I can speak to that.
Okay.
I definitely have a mentality of keeping things simple, and efficiency is one of my most high values. And so I always am looking for ways to cut steps. So for instance, when I was single, I realized that cooking didn't make sense for me. I'm not a natural cook. I don't enjoy it that much. And so I realized that I could go out for breakfast, eat breakfast out, pack up half of it, have that for lunch, and have a salad for dinner. And this was a while ago. This was in early 2000 or so. But I was spending less than $10 a day for food.
That's great.
And plus I worked in a restaurant, so I would usually eat dinner there. So it's things like that. I mean, I'm willing to go outside of the conventional thinking to say, okay, is this simple? How can I make my life less chaotic, more simple?
That's great.
Yeah.
Cool. Lynn, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, I think that was definitely true for me too, as far as food. But another area was not getting overcommitted to things and trying to keep my calendar more open. So and doing things more spontaneously rather than planning to get involved in volunteer work. I like it to be for a few weeks and then on to a new project or something. I'm not doing long-term things like that, and just trying to keep my calendar open and more spontaneous. I think it's been a big thing for me.
Yeah,
I think I was missing a lot just by having it so full up. Yeah.
That's a great one.
That's been a big one.
Cool. I think we have a question that's come in, but I'm trying to see the best way to pull it up. I think I'll just toggle to that other screen. So here's a question from Ayla or Jeanette at Generation Juice. I have a question having to do with the ashes of a pet or person who has passed on in the house. Does this do anything to the energy? Is there a way ashes should be handled or displayed? Do you have any comments just from your own experience about that?
I do.
Okay.
I know from my studies in Feng Shui and also from my own personal experience that it's, for me, been very, very, it's not a good idea to keep anything like that around, any effects of a once living person or animal. So it's really best to have a ceremony and to scatter those, those ashes. It's really part of the letting go process, part of the grieving process, and it's really necessary. And I would never, under any circumstances, keep anything like that at my home.
Just 1 second. So, Lynn, did you have anything to add to that, or should I go on to the next question?
I just briefly, my parents and I have been having this conversation, and it's almost funny. It's a necessary conversation, but my folks are 93, and they both want to be cremated, and that's great. The problem is I want them to tell me what they want to do with their ashes.
Yeah.
And neither one of them know. It has something to do with the golf course, but we haven't decided. And so I've told my dad.
Put him in a golf ball.
Yeah. I've told my dad, I said, if you don't come up with something, I'm going to put you in the pantry. So anyway, it's been kind of an amusing couple of weeks talking about things like that. They're kind of in a lively debate about whether if they can't agree, we need to put them together. They've been married 70 years, so you'd think so, but it is. But I agree with Carrie. I don't believe in having them around the house or anything. So.
Okay. And then any advice for times when we're having a hard time parting with some object? This is from Miriam.
The best advice really comes from Marie Kondo, and that is, ask yourself, put yourself in a grateful state of mind. Look at the object and say, really talk to it and say, I am so grateful that you came into my life. I remember that day I bought you or got you, and it made me so happy. And now I realize that was the reason you're in my life, and I can let you go. And because what I found for myself was that it was such a stressful, sad, grieving kind of a feeling, whereas when I got to gratitude, it was like, oh yeah, I can do that. Yeah. And I really love that part. And I think it's the most genius part of her book.
Absolutely. Yeah. The basically celebrating that object and thanking it, and then letting it go.
I love that.
Yeah. Okay. I'm just going to peek back, see if we have any more questions, and right now we don't, so we're basically at the time. I just want to thank both of you, Lynn and Carrie, for sharing your lives, your experiences, and allowing that to enrich the rest of our group. So thank you very much. And thank you all for listening in, either live or on the replay, and we'll be talking to you soon. Thanks.
Thanks, Kathy.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thanks, Kathy.
Uh-huh.